Hey everybody, welcome to Procurement Foundry. Mike Cadgy, the founder here. We got another session for you today on original content series webinars. We've got Sarah Scudder from RSN, Real Sourcing Networks. She is an industry expert and has been around for a couple of decades now in the procurement industry. She's a really good friend of mine. Absolutely my go-to contact when it comes to print management and marketing related information associated with procurement and sourcing. One thing you will notice about this webinar today is my background will change as soon as we cut over. So we recorded this last week when I was down in New York City. I unfortunately, due to a production error on my part, did not press record for the first introduction part of it. So we're re-recording the introduction today, now that I'm back in the home office. So Sarah has been amazingly patient to help me get through my production difficulties and technical difficulties. So thank you very much for that, Sarah. Let's talk really quickly about what Sarah's going to discuss with us today, which is why you should care about your print spend. There's a lot of myths and debunk out there about where print is going. Sarah's here to set that all straight and tell you a lot about what trends and exciting new stuff is in print. Sarah, a quick rundown on her. She's the president of RSN, amazing company around print management and print bidding. She's also got 15, 20 years of experience, like I told you about, inside of the industry. She's a board member of the Global Women Procurement Professionals, which a lot of you I know are members of. She runs and manages all of their events. So if you're going or have been to a GWPP event, then you've got Sarah to thank for that. She's the creator of Procure Rising magazine that has about 10,000 members in its subscription base, which, by the way, Procurement Foundry is the feature article for this month's subscription, this quarter's subscription, right, Sarah? So thank you very much.
It's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. And a little known bit of information about Sarah. She and I share the same favorite fashion designer right now, me on the men's side, obviously she's on the women's side. Ted Baker, amazing fashion. But as Sarah said, that's your favorite designer currently in your budget. Is that right?
That's right. Startup world doesn't allow for super high-end fashion, so Ted Baker it is. I actually live like 10 or 15 minutes from one of their only outlets.
Yeah, that's great. So, hey, Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate you coming out and doing this webinar with us and being part of the Procurement Foundry Original Content Series. Thank you. So first, thank you very much for being with us.
And I have to say hello from Atlanta. When we first recorded, I was in Danville at home in the Bay Area. I am in Atlanta for a couple days. We're hosting our first procurement talk of 2020. One of the things I love to do is bring local procurement communities together to network and collaborate and share ideas. So hopefully we'll get a good turnout and showing tonight.
So that's cool. We're actually doing a bi-coastal webinar due to my production errors. So that's pretty interesting. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be such an expert in the field, and then we'll just jump right in and we'll cut over to your presentation.
Yeah, so I started my career right out of college actually on the marketing side. So I was planning to actually go into fashion. I went to a very small university in wine country and randomly fell into procurement, like I think most of us do. It's not something we wake up one day and say, I'm going to go into procurement. So I got a marketing job and I started setting up and implementing and running marketing programs and marketing teams. And as a marketer, I bought lots of things, lots of marketing services. I bought print. I bought a lot of digital, agency work. And the company I was at a few years later was acquired actually by an outsourced print management firm. And the outsourced print management firm actually had me transition from a marketer role into a procurement professional buy-side role. So I actually helped them set up and manage very large procurement programs in the marketing space for global companies. So I had some pretty incredible experience working with companies in many verticals and many industries. After doing that for a few years, I had my marketing experience, my procurement site experience, and so I decided that there was something that I thought was missing in the market, which was technology and software around sourcing and buying very marketing specific things like print, like services, like agency, like media. And I said, I want to help the industry by providing a solution that marketing and procurement teams can both like and enjoy and work together and be more efficient, save money, and do all the good stuff that goes along with procurement and sourcing. So I transitioned over to the service provider side about a year and a half ago. And now, as you mentioned, I'm running RSN, and we have a very, very niche sourcing tool for print and marketing services. And so I've worn many hats, and through all of it, I think I have a really good and interesting perspective on some of the trends and innovations and things that companies should be doing now to better manage this category.
Wow, that's a pretty impressive career story. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me based on all of that your expertise is really around sourcing, acquisition of marketing and print materials, and optimizing and creating value in that space. So why don't we do this? We're gonna cut over now with Sarah to her presentation, and thank you so much for joining all of us. And Sarah, again, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So
Great.
I think one of the big challenges that procurement has with marketing is marketing wants nothing to do with procurement. They think procurement has no idea about what they do. They're just big watchdogs. All they want to do is cut costs, and they're really going to hinder their performance. So marketing wants nothing to do with procurement, and they take over and manage their spend on their own, which means there are many companies that spend hundreds of millions or billions of dollars with little to no oversight on the marketing spend by procurement. So I think it's one of the biggest growth areas and biggest opportunities that procurement has today is to be able to influence and win over marketing stakeholders to help control that spend. So I think one of the big challenges in this space is really the change management piece, which we hear a lot in the procurement space, but it's really, really challenging and difficult in marketing.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, no question about it. All right, well, let's get started then, and we'll jump into that. And obviously, we've got some interactive Q&A that's going to take place, and we'll talk with some folks at the end.
An important category. But they did a study in 2017, and they found as a result that most procurement departments oversee less than half of their company's global marketing spend. So that means we have billions and billions of dollars of unmanaged marketing spend just sitting there that have a lot of room for efficiency and cost savings. The WFA is another organization that does some research in this space. And their study revealed that the procurement function typically has between 50 and 80% of coverage in the marketing spend. So a little more than the globality study, but still we're looking at about a 50% amount of the spend that's not being managed by procurement today. Globality did another study and found that 24% of surveyed procurement professionals said that their relationship with the marketing team was challenging or somewhat challenging. And another 20% said the relationship was only somewhat open. So again, this is just going back to there's this really, really big opportunity for procurement and marketing to collaborate and work together to help bring the marketing spend under control. So this is a funny picture that reminds me of my days when I was in procurement and just trying anything I could to work with and win over the marketing stakeholders. And a question I get asked a lot is, you know, as a procurement professional, why should I even care about marketing procurement? It's such a pain. It's so hard. I just want to focus on other categories. Something else I get asked a lot, and probably at least twice a week this comes up. I mean, I'm a millennial, and I'm in what you would consider a pretty traditional or old school space, which is print. And I get asked all the time, print is dead, print is dying, print is going away. Why in the world are you spending a career and building a software company around a space that's expend category that's not even going to be around in 5 or 10 years? So this is a statistic that I think is really, really shocking. And I was even surprised, even though I spend my entire world in this space, of how big the spend actually is. So print is not going away. Print is not dead. And print is actually increasing in the United States. So in 2018, the print spend in the United States was $81.7 billion. And that's a 1.7% increase from 2017.
That's amazing.
It's a substantial spend that I think most procurement professionals have no realization of how much money we spend on print in the United States.
Coming from a guy who was inside of the second largest advertising company in the world for the last 17 years, and coming out of the digital world, I just, it's mind-boggling to me that the print spend is A, growing, and B, is $81 billion. That's a staggering amount, considering what the total media buy budget is on a global basis. That's a really big number.
And I get asked a lot, well, why is it increasing? How is it increasing? And I would say there's two major things driving this. One of them is the increase in online purchases because of Alibaba and Amazon. And what that's forced people to do, normal, standard mom and shop retailers, who have just had storefronts, now to compete, have to sell their products online. And this has really transitioned in the last 3 years. And when you sell something online, you have to have packaging and labels to ship your product. So the biggest increase areas in print in the last 24 months are in packaging and labels. And that's, again, largely because of the rise and the increase of online ordering versus people physically going into a retail establishment to make a purchase. Now, there's been a significant decrease in the amount of books that are being produced and purchased, and that also has an impact because of Amazon. Amazon launched a service called Create Space. I have several entrepreneurial friends who have written books, and they've all used the service. And what you do is you upload your book content or information to Create Space, and then you can just have it listed online, and it's produced when it's ordered. So there's no longer a need for people to print and produce thousands and thousands of books and store them in a warehouse. You can produce them online through this Create Space program. So we've seen a huge decrease in the amount of spend on books and publishing, but a huge increase, which has actually offset that decrease, in the packaging and label space.
Is there a marketplace for that? I mean, on-demand print is huge, right? Consumer content on-demand print, that's really interesting. Are they using customized print capabilities to like upsell, like if you put in your information, you can have, happy birthday, mom, hope you enjoy this, as page 1 of the book, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Are they doing customized job like that? Or is it really just single file on demand, but on a demand basis?
Yeah, so there's actually some companies that have actually emerged in the last 3 years that are developed for that sole reason. They allow you to upload content, and you can actually customize one book. This is very common in the wedding industry. So you pay your $5,000 or $10,000 for a really expensive photographer, and you have all these images. Well, what are you going to do with them? You can only have so much wall space to print photos and put them on your walls. So you can now go to these websites and upload all of your photos and customize the book with your name, your specific information, and produce a one-off. So it's a very, very fast growing, very important part of the market segment.
Yeah. Really interesting. Huh.
So with seeing that number of the increase, and the 2019 spend number has not been released. Hopefully it will in the next few weeks, so I'll be able to update that so it's even more relevant, so we can have a total sense of the US print spend from last year. But there's a resurgence of print happening. There's no way around it. It's what's going on in the market, and companies are spending more now on print than they did a few years ago. And there's a couple companies that have done a fair amount of research in the direct mail space, and oftentimes direct mail, trends in direct mail are actually a sign of what's actually happening in the broader print spend category. So a company called Data and Marketing Association did a big study on direct mail, and they've actually found that direct mail response rates are higher today than they have been for many past decades. So it means people are getting direct mail and actually buying or taking action upon getting that piece in the mail. The US Post Office does a lot of research because it's one of their largest revenue factors. A largest part of their revenue is direct mail. And they've actually seen an increase in companies printing catalogs as being a highly effective marketing tool. And you would think that people are not doing catalog production at all because, again, of Amazon and Alibaba and all the online retailers, but we're actually seeing an increase in more companies printing and shipping catalogs and consumers actually making purchases from them. And an example of that is Avon. My friend used to run procurement there. They produce something like 26 or 28 catalogs a year. And over 70% of their revenue comes from people calling or emailing in orders from the catalog, not from online sales.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's got something to do with the emergence of the millennials as consumers and the fact that the millennials grew up in an age where there wasn't the decline of the catalog and the decline of direct mail just due to its overabundance in the late 90s and the turn of 2000. And now they're actually engaging with it more because they've never had it before.
So I'm actually a millennial, so I can speak to that from my personal experience. And there was a point where I got almost nothing coming in the mail because companies had just completely shifted the pendulum and decided not to print and mail anything and really shifted to doing everything digitally. And I think you're absolutely correct, because we as millennials have been so bombarded with so much information digitally on our phones, on social media, on our computers, that when we actually get something in the mail, we feel really special and really cool. And so we spend the time to look at it and use it and potentially make a purchase as a result of it.
Yeah, and I think I don't even know what generation my 20-year-old daughter is. Is that Gen Z or Y or whatever they are? But my college age children now, they come home from school for a weekend after a month or 2 months of being away at school. And one of the first things she does is actually picks up her pile of mail and runs through it. It's kind of interesting to see. It'd be the last thing I did when I came home from college, but now she's interested to see what she's gotten because, like you said, she just gets inundated digitally. So to be in the physical presence again, I think it's an interesting phenomenon.
We actually at RSN launched a webinar series. It's called Truth from the Trenches. So we host a quarterly webinar. And our Q4 webinar last year, we actually had Gary, who's the VP of Innovation for the Post Office, on our webinar. And he talked about 4 of the interesting trends and things that they're using at the Post Office to drive usability and help consumers become more open to direct mail. And it was really interesting, some of the statistics and things that he shared. And they study and track how much time people spend checking the mail, how much time people can spend going through the mail. And they're actually seeing those numbers increase, which goes along the lines of what you just said about your daughter's behavior.
Yeah, does that start with the 15 to 25-year-olds and teaching them where the actual post office in town is, or I think that's probably where you have to start to go, hey, this is a post office. This is where like you actually mail things. This is a stamp and a letter.
Well, they're really smart what they've done. They've actually launched a service that you can opt in for, and you get your mail electronically, and it notifies you what's delivered in your box. So if you're traveling, you can actually look at your mail electronically. So you know when you get home, oh, I want to go check the mail, and this is what I want to make sure I look at.
They have a Wi-Fi enabled mail PO box, or that's cool. I get it. Wait for the RFID tags.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the trends that I think are really interesting that are happening in the print space that are actually driving some of this increase in the category. And the first is the revival of the print newsletter. I mentioned a few minutes ago that Amazon launched this service where you can now upload and publish a book print on demand. You don't need to have all this inventory. And one of the things that was seeing a major decline was newsletters, but now we're starting to see an actual increase in the newsletter because, again, people are so bombarded with reading everything digitally, they actually like to pick something up and touch and feel it. And one of the reasons for that, I think, is the rise in niche publications. So as a consumer, when I get something in the mail or I read something, I want it to be personalized for me. I want it to be something that I care about, something that I'm passionate about, something that I'm interested in. And companies are catching on. And they're really focused on studying their target consumer and developing content and materials that specifically relate and are relevant to them. And with that, we've seen the rise of niche publications. An example of that is the magazine that we launched at RSN. And so again, we didn't see a lot of niche publications in the print and procurement space. So we decided to launch Procure Rising, which is a way for us to go out into the industry and find people like you at Procurement Foundry doing really cool, unique things and using the publication as a way to share and tell a story. So this is one of the reasons why we are seeing an uptick in print is because of these niche publications. Second is augmented print. So augmented print, what that actually means is it's combining print with digital. The most common example of this is a QR code, which stands for quick response, and it works like a barcode. So if you get packaging or you're in a coffee shop, or again, you get something in the mail and you see a barcode, you'll scan it with your phone and it will take you to a third-party website, which will have something for you, whether it's a questionnaire that the company wants you to fill out to give them additional information, whether it's offering you a freebie, maybe it's a shipping code for a code for free shipping. Hydro Flask is a company that I like and follow. I'm looking at my new Hydro Flask water bottle right now. And what they did is they sent me a QR code that I then scanned, and they gave me a code for free shipping on my next purchase. And they use something called a landing page. So Mike, let's say for instance that you love Mercedes. And silver is your favorite color, and Mercedes knows this, and they're gonna maybe send you a direct mail campaign with a picture of you and your wife sitting in their brand new beautiful silver SUV. And then it's gonna have a QR code that you scan with your phone, and it's gonna take you to a landing page that has you and your wife's name on it. That would be an example of augmented print because it's combining that paper print piece with that digital component. And it's being used quite a bit. And I'll give you an example of how we actually use it at my company. So we host something called procurement talks, which are procurement meetups around the country to help bring local procurement communities together. And the day of the event or the day before, Brandon on my marketing team will send out a reminder. And in that reminder, he includes a QR code, which you can scan. And then it gives you specific instructions about how to get to the event. So maybe it's a map, maybe it's walking instructions, parking instructions, but we actually use that as a way to help people make sure they find the location of our event.
Really interesting. Yeah, you said about customized print. I'm actually in the market right now for a new car, and I spent some time at one of the dealerships talking about things, and it was really interesting I went on a test drive on one vehicle, And 3 days later, I had a custom, unique,
Yep.
personalized printout of all the materials in the colors that I chose, with the rim that I chose, and the interior colors that I chose. And it was all customized print to me in real time. So, and sent directly to my house. So all the brochures that are at the dealerships are kind of standardized, but they can customize all that, throw your name on the front of it, talk about potentially loaning you one for a weekend or things like that. So I thought that it was a really interesting way of doing customized one-off print in the auto dealership space to keep my attention on their brand versus others.
And the auto dealerships are one of the biggest consumers of print because they are really focused on that customization now. So your experience is very, very common. When people go in and test drive, they then develop a profile for you and create printed materials around your profile.
Larry from Canada says I should get a McLaren P1. And Larry, if you want to loan me the funds for that, I will gladly drive it, my friend. So I don't think I can actually fit in a McLaren P1 without a shoehorn, but
ask Larry what he thinks about you in an Aston Martin.
Yeah. I would gladly try and squeeze into a McLaren F1, P1. Absolutely. I'm sorry, we digress. Go ahead, continue on, Sarah.
So another trend that's really happening in the print space is something that you wouldn't even necessarily think of, but it's actually people are really focused on paper. Paper has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we don't even really think about it, but it can really add and enhance to a marketing campaign. Some of the things people are really doing a lot of is focusing on foil and varnish finish. So when you get a printed thing, it's the coating that you put on top of it. Also using paper with interesting die cuts. So let's say that your wife loves stilettos and she gets a new Ted Baker ad in the mail, and instead of it being a standard piece of paper, it's actually die cut in the shape of a stiletto.
Yeah.
Whether it's either a flat or a 3D dimensional shape. And then the other thing is the texture of the paper. So people are playing around with really unique things that when you touch it, it really makes it stand out. So you get your stack of mail and something's got a really unique feel to it, you're much more likely to spend time reading it and looking at it. And you talked about this with your example, is the big trend on focus on personalization, really tailoring your message to each individual customer, instead of doing blanket generic campaigns. Another thing that I really love is the focus on consumer stories. So I'm a big believer as a marketer and a consumer that I learn best from hearing people's stories. And companies are really starting to catch on to this trend and using print as a way to tell people's stories. So they're using posters, flyers, ads to really talk about and express real life stories from customers. And I think millennials have been a big driver of this. We as millennials don't want some big company telling us a bunch of BS or telling us why we should buy something. We want to hear it from our peers. And so being able to tell the stories through print has becoming a really effective sales strategy. And print is a great vehicle to help convey those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty basic, but I think companies and people forget this a lot. There's a big shift in the print space on people keeping things really simple. When you get something that has too much text or information, you're not going to read it. You're bombarded. You're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So by being able to look at something and quickly look at a picture or a word and relate to it goes a long way. And I think Apple is a really good example of this. they developed a logo, which is an apple. And a lot of the things that they produce, their packaging and a lot of their print material has no words on it at all. Or if it does, it's just 1 or 2 words and a lot of graphics and imaging. And another trend that's happening in print, which is kind of interesting because some of this stuff is really coming full circle, is the use of customized promo codes. So these used to be really popular several years ago. They kind of went away and now they're coming back. And this restaurant industry is a great example of this. If you love Chipotle or you know, McDonald's or whatever brand that you follow, they're gonna start to get to know your behaviors and they're gonna generate codes that are specific and unique to you. And when you get that code and you go into the store and you use it, they're able to track really specific information about you. What are you buying? When are you buying? What are your buying habits? And they can use that to make better decisions for their company, but also to better market to you. So the apparel industry is using this a lot as well. They'll send out codes and then track when you go into the store or do you buy online, what are you buying, when are you buying? And so a way that companies are distributing these codes is through print material.
We've got a couple of people in the group listening today that are in cosmetic and beauty and fragrance.
Yep.
Do you see this happening in those spaces as well?
Very, very big. Ulta is a great example.
Yeah.
I was in Ulta a couple weeks ago, and you'll get your postcard or an email or something coming through your phone with a personalized code, which will then drive you into the store or to make a purchase online. So cosmetics is a big consumer of custom promo codes.
And is it a co-branded effort with Ulta and a specific brand going into the shop to buy against, or is it just a all-encompassing Ulta discount?
Yeah, the ones that I've seen from Ulta are just Ulta specific. They're not co-branded.
Yep.
I have seen co-branded in other examples, but not specifically with Ulta.
Yep. Interesting.
And another kind of random one is something called spot varnish, which again, you may not really think about if you're not in the print industry, but it's something that people are really focusing on as a way to stand out. And I gave an example here. There's companies now that have developed sites solely around business cards. And I know for a lot of us who are tech people, we think, well, who even uses business cards? Everything we do is on LinkedIn, but people still use business cards and they still pass things out. And spot varnish is a way that really makes something stand out. Your logo jumps, it's shiny, it's appealing, you can touch it and it has a cool feel.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite examples of a trend that's happening in print. And one of the things that companies are starting to do is embed medical technology with printed materials. So IKEA, which is obviously a big global brand, their founders started the company under the age of 30 or billionaires. And so they're doing something right. And they launched an ad a couple years ago to promote a new baby crib that they developed. And the crib was $995.
And you can put it together yourself.
Yes. There's no disclaimer about the hours that you have to spend after putting the product together.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Here's
an expert woodworker to put the thing together. Go ahead.
So here's what their ad says. This ad is also a pregnancy test. Pee on the marked area and wait a moment. If you are expecting, you will get a surprise right here in the ad. So if I pee on this strip and I am expecting, it's going to show that I'm pregnant. And then you'll see on the side in red, it comes up with a 50% off price for me. So if I'm pregnant, I now get this crib for $495.
So you have to take the coupon. That's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. It's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. I think it's innovative. I'm just concerned that people are hauling these things into IKEA and
that's exactly what you do.
Yeah, you haul it into IKEA with, with in a baggie and say, "Hey, here's my positive test, and give me my crib."
Yeah, and if you want to, this went viral and they received a lot of backlash. I thought it was a brilliant idea. And so if you ever want to research, go online and check out this ad. But I think it's a really good job of how you can use print as a way to drive sales.
Yeah.
Another trend that's really happening is the focus on sustainability. It's something I personally am really passionate about. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. A lot of us are hippies here, so it's a big movement where I live. This is an example of a coffee company that actually part of their core and mission and who they are as a brand is focusing on sustainability and doing good for the environment. So they actually not only have their coffee product, but part of their pitch and everything that they do is that their bags will dissolve once you're done with them. So I go through and I drink this coffee, I'm done with it. I no longer now have to throw this away and create waste for the environment. This bag will actually dissolve. And an example of this that's really relevant, again, in the Bay Area is plastic straws have been outlawed here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So retailers cannot give plastic straws to customers or there are hefty fines. So people are either not using straws or they're turning to biodegradable paper straws. When I was at the Sourcing Industry Group conference last year, I really liked what they did as one of their gifts in your tote bag when you check in. They actually produced a reusable straw that everyone got to have. So I now carry it with me. And instead of needing a plastic straw, I have a straw that I can wash in the dishwasher.
I think that's fantastic, but with the amount of travel that I do, I can barely remember my roller bag, never mind a reusable straw. So I love that. If you're that organized, God bless you. I've given up on straws altogether, and I'm just taking the sippy top out of the top of every drink that used to have a straw on it and calling it a day.
There you go. Sippy cap is eco. We're okay. Yeah. We're okay with that.
Yep.
So the final trend that I want to talk about, and this is something that is actually near and dear to me. This is really important in my boyfriend's industry, so I've heard a lot about it, and it's 3D printing. So 3D printing has completely changed the game for manufacturers or people that are in research and in the marketing space, because it allows you to create a prototype in a day. So my boyfriend is a materials scientist. He works at Lawrence Livermore Lab with about 2,000 other scientists. So they're a bunch of nerdy people that come up with all these smart things. Yep. But they have to test them. You can't just go to market with something without testing it. So they design and develop something, and then it would take them 3 months to a year to get a prototype. They would get the prototype and then test it and then need changes. They have to go back to the supplier and wait another few months. And that really delays the creativity and innovation process. And by the time the product actually is produced and delivered, it may be no longer relevant because it took so long. So at their lab, they have invested heavily in 3D printing because it can work with many different types of materials, even things like glass and ceramic, and they can get prototypes now in one day. And again, this is really big in the manufacturing space as well. Companies that focus on innovation and developing products, this is a huge game changer in the printing industry. And just a couple interesting examples. I pulled up some photos so you can get a visual of the impact that this is going to have in supply chain and procurement in the print space. This is a paper pulp printer that uses paper pulp instead of plastic. The world's first 3D printed stainless steel bridge was unveiled at a Dutch Design Week in October 2018 by a robotics company called MX3D. A group at Ohio State developed a 3D printed ceramic facade that can be integrated with a building's mechanical system to control light, airflow, and privacy. Company Universal Favorites developed a 3D printed mold to create their line of complimentary chocolates. So yes, this is actually edible, and complimentary doesn't mean they just give this away. What this does is their chocolates are molded so two flavors fit together like a puzzle to be eaten as one.
It's Pringles stackables for chocolate. I love it.
Exactly. Researchers at Columbia University have developed a method of scanning techniques that are able to imitate the internal and external structure of wood-like materials. So really interesting. You would think just by glancing at that, that actually looks like wood. And this is one of the most unique applications that I've seen for 3D printing. NASA is investigating the capabilities of 3D printing in developing a design for habitats on Mars with its 3D printed habitat challenge.
Yeah.
So how in the world does any of this have to do with procurement? We've seen that the print spend is actually increasing. We've seen some of the major trends in the industry as to why there's an uptick in print, but what does this have to do with the procurement space, and how does it impact procurement professionals? And there's three major areas in how this impacts procurement. The first is companies who are spending more on print are having more transactions come through. And one of the challenges with print is a lot of the transactions are very low value. So you're not running 10 or 20 jobs a month that are $1 million print jobs. That's very rare. If you have an increase, you're often sourcing and running a lot of jobs, but they're very low dollar value, which takes a lot of time for not a lot of spend. And the second is resource strain. A lot of companies don't have people with a lot of expertise in print and marketing services on staff, and they're already overloaded. And if procurement's going to take on the print spend, they don't have people who have the time or resources to be able to do it. So what do you do if you don't have budget to hire more people? Mm-hmm. And the third is this has a big impact on MarTech, and MarTech is marketing technology. And in our Truth from the Trenches webinar series that my company launched, we actually did a webinar last week, and we had marketing procurement executives from several brands talking about the impact that marketing procurement technology is having. And they said it is the biggest growth area, the biggest challenge, and the biggest focus for them. Because you're not just procuring print. Along with the print is lots of technology that you need to purchase as well. So an example is if you're rolling out a new program and you have printed pieces that you need to distribute to all of your stakeholders in the US or globally, you need a way for them to quickly and easily get those materials. So you need to source a technology solution where you can have an online catalog so people can go and click an order and customize those materials and get them very quickly. If you are buying a lot of print and marketing services, you may need to buy some technology and sourcing tool for your team to use to do their RFQ and generate their bids. And in the case of the direct mail example, Mike, that you gave, where you went into a dealership and then 3 days later you got that customized piece, you're going to need to buy some technology to generate those QR or those customized codes.
Mm-hmm. Question for you, Sarah, from the audience. Casey is online today with us from Avon. As I mentioned, Anna and some others from the beauty cosmetics industries are. Casey asks that, or says that he's noticing a lot of the larger mills are either closing or being acquired through consolidation, making the big suppliers even more powerful. What do you think is the risk of monopoly in this space, and how do we overcome this, protect against the monopolization single source element when we're negotiating?
Yeah, great question, and I'm happy to take that offline because I know we only have a few minutes left, but I'll give a very quick answer. So in the print space, I think it was Casey you mentioned who said this, he or she, you're absolutely correct. There's been a huge shift in the last 5 years of major monopolies happening. A lot of the small, mid-sized companies are either going out of business or have been acquired. So you've got a few major players in the space. And I think a few ways to combat that is, one, using technology to competitively bid those suppliers against each other. You may not have 20 suppliers now that you're bidding against, maybe you have 5. but using technology to create a consistent competitive bidding environment is going to help, so you're not stuck and relying on that single source model.
Yeah. Good question. We should actually cut and paste that with an answer into your channel inside of the Procurement Foundry.
Okay.
So Sarah's, just so everybody knows, Sarah's company actually has a channel inside of the Procurement Foundry as well that you can interact with Sarah on all of these topics on as well. And certainly something that I think is a good question that we should get documented, Casey, and get the answer to, so all the other Procurement Foundry members can see the question and the answer to it.
Okay. One of the things I get a lot of questions about from procurement is marketing doesn't want to work with us. They're a pain to work with. We are not getting any traction. And these are the 4 most common objections that I see when procurement is trying to work with marketing to take over or help influence the print spend. And the first is, most of the time marketing has never competitively bid their print or marketing services, or if they have, it's very, very rare. They've worked with the same suppliers for many years, and they'll say, well, bidding print will hurt our quality and consistency. We don't want to do it. Second objection is, it's not possible to match the service we get from our current supplier. So marketing professionals are often very, very relationship driven. And to them, they would rather pay 10, 20, 30% more to get great service from a supplier that they've been working with for a long time. 3 is, they don't want to stop working with their current printer or supplier because they've been working with them for 10 or 20 years. And I can't tell you how many times I've come into organizations and helped set up and implement strategic programs to manage print and marketing services. And they have suppliers they've been working with for 20 plus years, and they've never competitively bid out the spend.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no question about it. Yep.
And the 4th, which is probably the one I hear the most from CPOs or heads of procurement, is, why should we even care about print? There's other higher priority categories. We have $1 billion spend. Print makes up a super small percentage of it. Why should we even care and put anything in place? So I'll close this out before we open it up to any other questions, talking about the 4 main print category solutions that are really in the market today. And I'll challenge all of you on the call to really take the first step in going and working with your stakeholders and accounting teams to run the data to figure out what you are spending on print. Without the data, you can't make any decision. And 9 out of 10 professionals I talk to have no idea what they spent on print for the last 12 months. So the first step is, you need to know what you're spending on this category. If you're spending $10,000 or $20,000, do not do anything and focus on other categories. It's not enough to worry about. But at some point, you need to set your benchmarks and say, okay, if we're spending $250,000, $500,000, $1 million, $5 million, at what point does it make sense for us to look at this category and put something more strategic in place? And only you can determine that. But the first step is, you've got to look at the data and understand what the spend is. So once you have the data and you understand, is it something that makes sense for you to focus on this category, then you should go through and look at these different solutions that are in the market. And the first, which is the most common, is do nothing. It's totally decentralized. Every stakeholder does what they want. No visibility, no insight. Again, if your spend is 10 or 20,000, you should keep it decentralized. Don't worry about it. If it's $1 million plus, maybe you want to move out of the decentralization and look at something else. The second solution, and Casey mentioned this with his or her question, was around single sourcing. So one of the strategies is, you go out and do an RFQ or RFP, and you're going to single source. You're going to send all of your business to one supplier. They'll produce what they can in-house at their facility. What they can't, they'll sub out to other local suppliers, and they'll be that single point of contact. The third strategy is outsourcing. And that's where an organization says, we don't want to manage this category in-house. We don't have the resources. We have staff that we want to outsource. It just doesn't make sense for us to focus on this. we want someone else to do this. And there are several large print management firms, and this is what all they do. They come in and actually take over the category for you. There's a couple big ones in the US and a couple big global firms as well. And they typically come in at the 10 million and greater spend. So once it hits 10 million, they feel that they can really add some value. They'll come in and do a full assessment. Oftentimes they'll hire existing staff. If you have dedicated print buyers, they'll actually bring them onto their payroll, and or they'll staff their own teams on site and they'll manage it for you.
So they're really category experts that coexist with the existing procurement organization.
That's right.
Right? And it's basically category outsourcing.
It's exactly what it is.
Okay. All right, I get it.
And then the fourth strategy is something that's newer to the market. And this is where you look at a niche sourcing tool specific to print or the marketing category. And this is where you've assessed your spend. You've decided you don't want a single source and outsourcing doesn't make sense, or you don't want to outsource, but you want to put something in place. And there are tools in the market that allow you to set up your suppliers, generate RFQs, and automate competitive bidding and vendor management. So you have a central tool company-wise that people are using. Procurement has visibility and insight because they can access the tool, look at the data, track what's happening. Marketing and the other stakeholders have a tool that's really simple and easy for them to use. So those are the four major category solutions that are in the market today.
Okay. Wow, lots to digest, Sarah. Thank you so much. Just doing a time check. It's 1:55. We've got about 5 minutes left here. A couple of things. One person just asked a question, how do the outsourcers earn money? I'm assuming that there's different models there with outsourcers where it can either be a gain share model or a cost-based plus or different or retainer-based. Yes. Outsource process, right? Things like
There's
that.
There's many different. The most common, the two most common is a gain share. They'll take a percentage of the savings.
Yeah.
Or a cost plus model. They'll add X percentage to everything that they do to cover the cost of their staff and team.
All right. And in your company, the RSN company actually has a tool that does some of this, on the automation of the process as well, right? I want to make sure I understand that.
Yeah, so we play in the fourth bucket, providing a very niche sourcing tool that companies can use to manage the category themselves or use a third party to manage it for them using a technology software solution.
Okay. We've got a couple of folks here that are asking how they can see the tool, Sarah. Alan and some of the others are asking. I'll tell you this. And I said it earlier in the discussion, you can reach out to Sarah directly. I think Sarah might have a slide here at the end on how to contact her. Do you, Sarah?
Yeah.
There you go. I knew that was coming. Always the professional. And you can also reach out to Sarah inside of the Procurement Foundry. RSN has a channel that if you scroll up in the chat, you can reach out to Sarah inside of that channel that they have developed inside of Procurement Foundry and set up a presentation with her. And I'm sure she'll walk you through her tool. She specifically didn't want to make this a sales pitch for you guys and much more informational. I think she's done an exceptional job. I certainly learned a lot of stuff today. I'm very interested maybe in talking more about spend visibility in the print space. Maybe we can start up a conversation about that inside of your channel, Sarah. I love the idea of category outsourcing to experts because I think that experts have more experience in the categories than we all can have collectively, even though we focus on it. And I'm interested in continuing the conversation around competitive bid, especially in niche print. So I think those are three topics we might be able to have either virtual AMAs or brown bag lunch discussions inside of your channel on. I'm really excited about the opportunity there. Sarah, you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's it for today. I just want to say thank you very much to Sarah. And I think that if there's any more questions that you have for her, please, by all means, feel free and go either use the contact information that's on the screen, or you can DM her inside of Procurement Foundry as well. You can look her up, Sarah Scudder, inside of the direct messaging inside of Procurement Foundry. And that's it. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Really educational. We're going to record we've been recording all this, and we'll be posting this up on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Mike. And thanks to the community.
Thank you so much.